Hi, my name is Billionniere with Archangel Education and Technology, and today we're interviewing Dr. Billionniere for International Women in ICT Day.
My name is Dr. Billionniere. I'm a professor in the School of Engineering and Technology at Dade College, and I've been teaching here since 2014. And thank you for inviting me today.
Our pleasure. Thank you for having us. Now, Dr. Billionniere, what made you pursue a career in technology? And was there a moment that helped shape that decision?
Yes. So interesting enough, I actually was a math lover. So as a child, I used to watch a French show named Les Chiffres de Lettres, which is also known as Countdown. And pretty much it sparked my interest into numbers and problem solving. So later on, when I went to undergraduate school, I actually took a computer science class as an elective course. And the reason for that is not because I wanted to take the course personally. It's because one of my friends, Neza, actually, her name is, she was a computer science major, but she felt like she was always alone in the courses and she wanted me to come and be a study buddy, right? And I was like, okay, why not? I have so many courses, let's do that, right? And then the second reason is because I had a lot of male friends that were computer science, and I will see them at night just programming and getting excited when they get the solution, and I wanted to be part of that, feeling that excitement, right? So I took that course and everything got connected in my mind. I was able to link the math, the theory, to computer science, the application, and I was able to do that through modeling problems and building solutions that can be tested and used. Another moment that was critical is when I realized that it was not just about programming. It was really about building systems that can be that can impact people's lives, and really at large scales, right? And so that shifted my perspective from just learning technology, right, and really using technology as a tool, as a means to be able to meet or address society needs.
So great answer, amazing. Now, what do you enjoy most about working in tech, in education, especially working with the students?
That's a good question. It took me a while to get to education. I started in industry, right? From an industry perspective, it's really working and building system and coming up with prototype and fundraising for the idea. And when I switched to education, I did a career switch. I wanted to really bring what I learned from the industry and give it to my students. So I really think about when students gain confidence throughout the semester, throughout the years, I think it's really critical. Looking at students when they actually can see that they understand the concept, many of them are abstract. So it's really to see when the light bulb turn on, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And also seeing that when they apply the capstone project, individual assignment, when they get excited that they got the solution, you can see them, jumping up and down and say, I got it finally, right? After so many hours. And the last part for them to actually succeed in the field. So the whole journey about actually learning, training, and placement, I think it's just such a wonderful journey. At first, it may not be for students because it's hard, some challenges, but when they get to the end, they get that excitement. Another part that I like as being an educator in my case is really be able to build that ecosystem where students can increase a sense of belonging. Especially as women or even individual of color, we don't see too many role models or individuals that look like us, right? So be able to create the spaces where they can see that they have a place in the field is really critical. And so at Dade College, I'm still leading several initiatives that involve activities that are about STEM mentoring, for example, upskilling and reskilling in emerging technology, for example, cloud computing, empowering women in technology, which is really key to give them that foundation that they can succeed. Also, workforce readiness is not enough to just get a degree, but actually to work and enter the field. Because we have many individuals that actually get a degree, but actually don't work in the field, right? And so the goal is really like you entering in the field and representing us, right? And then the one I'm currently working on is actually a personalized coaching, where we have alumni that for some reason not be able to succeed to enter the field or want to go to grad school. So bringing expert coach from the industry to give them that extra support so they can actually meet the goals, right? Another aspect to think about as an educator, when we think about education, which is great because you don't have to wait too long to see that change. I mean, when you look at the impact, it's tangible, right? It's not just about building solutions, but it's actually shaping student future, right? And helping them to see opportunities that they may not have considered. And I think that's really key because a lot of students come in, they may want to do technology and thinking, okay, I'm going to make a lot of money, right? Especially at my campus, we serve a lot of low-income students. So it's critical, the financial aspect is critical for them to actually choose the major, right? And we really want to change that mindset. It's not just about money because you can make a lot of money and be not happy in that field, right? And so the goal is really through the curriculum to really bring that together. Yes, you will make money, but also we want you to actually have that drive to succeed and do very well.
Beautiful. Now, what advice would you give to girls who are seeking to be in technology?
That's a good question, and it's also a difficult one, a complex one, because it all depends where they're coming from, right? Advice I always think is that personalized to the individual, right? But I always want to say first, don't wait to start, because technology is here. It's not going anywhere, and there's not a specific time for you to enter it. You can do it right now. You don't have to be ready, because with your training, you will actually acquire those knowledge and skill sets. So don't worry about that, because that's something that we're going to provide through education. What is most important, I believe, is having that sense of curiosity and also that sense of persistence. Because if you're curious, you're going to take the knowledge from the classroom and go beyond the classroom. That's when you're going to have that self-drive to learn, which is really key, because classroom will give you the fundamentals, right? Outside of the classroom, whatever you do outside as extracurricular activity, that's what's going to help you to actually learn and get a deeper understanding of the concept or even the application. And persistence, you're going to be challenged no matter what, right? That's expected. Now you need to have strategies that's going to help you out to overcome those challenges that's going to be thrown at you, right? And that's really key, because you don't want to be stuck. When you get stuck, you get depressed, and then that's when you leave the field or change your major, right?
Yeah.
And so that persistence, not everybody has it, right? And that's really the mindset, right? In addition, I think that as an advice, I will say don't wait to get permission to take up space in technology. And what I mean for that is that you're going to miss opportunities. Don't wait for opportunity to come to you, but rather go to it, right? Whether you prepare or not, give your 100%, 200% to get into it. So there's no regret. At least you give all your efforts, your time, and then whatever come out as the output will be a reflection of it. And I would say I have high and lows, and that's okay, right? But I just know that every time I had a low, I gave my best, so I have no regrets regarding that. Another advice I will give, especially as women and girls, is to be able to advocate for yourself and not be afraid to ask for help.
So perfectly articulated. Now my next question is, why is it so important to have both girls and women represented in tech in these days?
Oftentimes we shy to be quiet because obviously we are one of the few or the only one, and so we feel like our voice may not matter. But actually our voice do matter, right? And also most important, our perspective as women and girls is actually very valuable, right?
Absolutely.
Because products, services, application, we are the users, right? So it's very important that this is reflected in those applications. So again, advocate for yourself, and then be that voice, that representation for your community, whatever the intersection that you have of your identity, represent it. I think that when you think about developers that actually create the technology, the system application, it's very important that that technology reflects the users, and we are the users, right? So us having a seat at the table within that ecosystem to be able to tell our piece or our perspective for the application to reflect us. I mean, we are users, right? So it needs to include us in that. In addition, something to think about when we talk about diversity, right, is diversity of thoughts. Not just women, but we have our thoughts that are different than now, right? And so having that at the table will be able to develop more better and more thoughtful applications.
Now, as a woman in tech, have you faced any challenges being in this space? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Yes, like so many of us, right? I have felt, and I'm still, feeling underestimated, right? Also being one of the few or the only one in that space. So the little isolation that takes place, and that's consistent, right? And so it's how you navigate that, right? So for me, to be able to overcome those challenges, what I do, and I'm still doing, right? It's a work in progress, is building my skills, right? That's been the learning aspect, self-growth, self-learning, right? Professional development. Also being an active member of supportive communities such as NSB, ACM, ICT, Anita B, many organizations that represent my intersectionality. For example, for women of color, women, or even computer scientists. So all those organizations, that's a network where I can actually speak with other individuals that have the same mindset, like-minded, right? And also people who look like themselves, right? So networking, sharing best practices, and learning from each other, right? And going those in and out that you probably won't hear in a large forum, right? And so that's very critical. And the last part is really able to not let others define my confidence and my capability.
That's key.
So that's really key. Sometimes you will face individuals who tell you, why are you here, right? You don't belong here, or I don't think you understand, you're not technical enough, right? And you want to make sure that you block that noise. This is noise. That's people who do not know you. You know yourself better. You know what you're capable. You know how far you can push yourself, and you know how to overcome those situations, right? And so I feel like as I increase my confidence and persistence, I'm able to strategize those challenges and be able to move forward and not let those challenges prevent me from moving forward. Again, the goal is always to move forward. We're always looking straight forward and block any noise that distracts you from that path that you set yourself. And that's been very helpful for me to be successful.
Amazing. If you can go back to your younger self and give her an advice about pursuing a career in tech, what would you say to her?
Not to doubt myself that whether I belong or not. That's doubt, that noise can be very strong. So I feel like, yes, I belong no matter what, right? I decide where I belong. I don't let other people tell me where I belong. Another aspect I will say is, be able to not let imposter syndrome, and I'll say that because some individuals say imposter syndrome is not a thing, but it is. There's different aspects of it. In my case, my imposter syndrome is being a perfectionist. That's my type of imposter syndrome, right? Be able to look at every detail, everything has to be perfect before I move forward, and really thinking about not everything has to be perfect. You don't need to know everything to be able to move forward, because as you move forward, those things will be addressed, right? And so really not looking for perfection in everything that I do. And I learned that, especially that now I have a child and I can't be perfect because it takes so much of my time. And so I learned to be less perfect, but still being proactive and still doing my best, right? Because now my energy changed a little bit because I have a little person that I'm trying to raise and be better than I, right? And so I look at those little imperfections that are beautiful, right? And then the other thing I would say as my young self is to trust the process. When there's a moment of doubt or a situation happen, not to over stress about it. Obviously stress is normal, but to be able to find ways to move forward. And again, I keep saying move forward because that's critical, not to be stuck. Being stuck is the enemy, right? And also be able to pivot. When things don't work out, you pivot, you think about another way, there's different ways to get into technology. We have individuals that are not tech major. You can be a non-STEM and be in technology. When you think about AI, you have a lot of individuals from linguistics major that get into it, right? And so there's different pathways. Back in my day, the pathway was getting a traditional degree in a BS, a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. But now there's so many pathways to get in technology that can tap into what you actually want to do, whether it's an interdisciplinary degree, whether it's a minor major, or whether it's something totally different. The goal is how do you apply your skills, transferable skills, to technology? How you combine that? I have individual nurse in my major, in my classes, right? And want to get into tech, right? Doing the whole tech, health tech, or even people in finance that want to do the whole fintech, right? How they combine that passion with technology, which is great because again, technology is around you, right? And so in my young self, when I wanted to be a math major, right? And I still want to be honest, right? That's still my little girl dream, is really appreciate that I was able to have that friend that brought me into her major and be able to look at myself and say that, yeah, I can do it. I see the connection, connecting the dots, right? And I just move forward with it, and here I am today.
How have you used your voice in different spaces, or what project have you done?
My entire kind of mission is really to give back, pay it forward, the same way that my mentors did for me. I think it was very helpful for them to pour onto me the knowledge, the skills, the opportunities that I did not know about. And that's one of the reasons why I did a career shift from industry to education, because I wanted to share what I learned in industry with the student, the next generation, right? A lot of things about the business aspect of it that we often not talk about. And it's very important not to understand technology, but also the business side of it. That they work together, they're not separate, right? Be able to not only pitch your idea, your vision, to be able to fundraise, to actually do the implementation and develop it, but be able to articulate in the language that they speak. It's not technology, it's the business language, right? So that's very important. So we talk about that in my classes when they have to present the capstone project or the group project. Communication is key, not only in the technology side, but also in the business side. And then the other thing that I want to mention is that self-promotion is key, especially for us, women and people of color. We tend not to promote ourselves. When you're already not visible, it's very important for you to be visible, for you to get to the next promotion or be able to get an opportunity. Because often, they don't see us. So if you don't say what are your achievements, milestones out loud, people won't know, right?
Wow, yeah.
So I always share that with my students. Even if it's a small milestone, it doesn't matter how big it is, right? It is a milestone for you because that was your goal to achieve. You achieve that goal, you share it. Not just with your friends, your family member, but also your teacher, in your network, online. You post it on your resume, you post it on LinkedIn, even if it's like an industry certification, even if it's just like I got a 4.0 GPA, or even you went to, you got a scholarship at the conference. You post that because then it's visible for others who know that you're working on yourself and you're meeting some goals. And so self-promotion is the muscle. We have to train it because it doesn't come natural for us.
Yeah.
Because, I would think like, my supervisor, they're in for you, they want to vouch for you, but they have so many individuals, right? Mm-hmm. So it's important for you when you go to those meetings with your supervisor or your director to actually share all your milestones. Yeah? And that's something that I included in my courses or even workshops with my students. And they really appreciate it because they're like, oh, I didn't know that, I think for me that's nothing, just getting that certification, I didn't think too much about it. But it is actually a big deal. And when they realize that, they're like, oh yeah, I'm somebody. Yes, you are, you meet those goals and you're making progress.
What project have you done?
Yes, so quite a few projects. Some of the projects that I mentioned, a few of them, is the LIFT. The LIFT is linking female to technology, and it's starting from high school to associate degree or bachelor degree, with a partnership with the Reboot Representation Coalition, which is a community organization. And pretty much what we did is providing that support, academic and mentoring support for them to be able to navigate the classes and also learning more about the field. So some of the activity that took place is the mentoring, where they actually got connected to a woman in industry who actually mentored them. Somebody who has similar intersectional identity, like if they were Latina, there would be a Latina industry person, and we're kind of looking at the background and making that connection. So that was it was a 6 to 1 year long mentoring with them. So they were able to ask questions, that personal questions that they may not want to ask to others, and be able to learn about what they actually do, what pathway they took to get into the field, and talk about their own passion and how it looks like, so they can give them some advice, right? Another aspect is be able to, in computer science, the critical part of it in computing is when you have to take those science courses, physics classes, chemistry, those classes that you don't know the connection, how it looks like, or even those advanced math courses, Calculus 1, Calculus 2, right? And so be able to make sure they're successful, because that's actually those courses that prevent students from actually moving forward in computing, because they don't see the connection with computer science. They don't use it quite often, right? And so they will, sometimes when they don't pass those courses, especially Calculus 2, for example, or even Physics 1 and Physics 2, they will actually think about changing the major. Many of them, right? Because they take so many science classes. So looking into that, doing the pairing with professors that teach actually those courses, can you actually include concepts, how you actually apply those concepts in Calculus 1 and Calculus 2 in computer science. The same thing with physics. Give assignments that reflect computer science skill set, so they can actually apply that and see how it's connected. Other activity we did is pretty much doing internship. So some of them went to do Microsoft internship during summer. Some of them we partnered with four-year university for them to actually go and do research during summer. And that was very helpful, because some of them actually continued into going to grad school and use those research projects that they did to be able to get into grad school with scholarship, or even some background experience to figure out what the niche of the research is going to be. Another project will be the Reset project. It was not actually cohort, it was more like a conference, and actually it took place during COVID, which was quite interesting, because initially it was supposed to be an in-person conference, but because of COVID, we had to pivot, and it ended up being an online conference where we had more than 400 attendees, with all women across the country, where we actually provide skill set. There was different tracks. One track was about upskilling and reskilling in emerging technology. So we're talking about cloud computing, AI, cybersecurity, and all that kind of thing for them to think about. And it was a lot of women who were actually not majoring in technology that wanted to enter the tech. And so they were able to figure out how it looked like, and kind of figure out what different pathway for them to enter the tech. And also through that conference, all the speakers, except for one, were all women throughout the industry. So we have people from Google, AWS, from Assurance, all the different industries. Wow. So when we think about tech, it's not just Google, Amazon. You think about also in the finance world, in the accounting, in the marketing world, because everybody has a tech engineering team, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to think about it. Sometimes people don't think that you can work at Walmart. They get good pay. They have actually an engineering team at Walmart or even Target. That's also a position that you can actually strive for, not always the big five that everybody hear about, right? So that conference was great, because it helped to build confidence, and also for actually women to network among themselves. Like I say, at my college, they don't get to really network, because first we have 8-9 campuses, right? So we scatter around that, right? And so it's hard to connect. But through that conference, they were able not only to meet other individuals at Miami-Dade College that look like them, but also across the country. So they built that network that they continue after the conference and actually went to other conferences for that. So in terms of women initiative and projects, although I have many projects and I always have women in my mindset, right? I always think what's the next thing, right? So my project always starts first from, dual enrollment from K-12, how they can actually take dual enrollment courses with cloud computing and get not only a high school degree, but also an associate degree at the same time by the time they graduate. The current project that I have is actually entering the workforce. What I mentioned early on is really like not just getting the degree only, right? I want you to actually be that voice in the tech, right? Getting that job in the tech, the job that you wanted to, right? And stay in it. Because oftentimes you get into it and after 1 year, layoff or whatever that is, and then you decide, okay, that's it for me, and move forward to something else, right? So all those initiatives that I work with the National Science Foundation, and as I mentioned, the Reboot Representation Coalition, as helping to provide funding for those individual women and girls, whether it's in scholarship, stipend, or undergrad research stipend, or even certification, industry certification for them to boost their resume, has been helpful for them to find their place and for them to focus on their education, right? And then for them to think about what's the next step in the career.
Thank you so much for your time here today. Thank you for your leadership in the community and paying it forward, and especially your contribution to the women in society.
Well, thank you for Archangel Education and Technology for giving me that space to be able to share my work and also be able to give advice for any ladies that are interested in entering technology or even thinking about it. Again, you are welcome, and we're looking forward for you to get into that space. There's a lot of space for you to take on, so please come in.